Hey, Michael with xforcePC. Some of you asked me to test the new Radeon RX 5700, and then there's an RX 5700 XT. I opted to get the 5700. I also tested the Vega 64 just for comparison. That's one of AMD's cards, and a Radeon 7 as well. And then I put that up against some of the GTX and RTX cards that NVIDIA has, and I ran the built-in X-Plane benchmark test at 1080p. It was done with 3200 megahertz memory on an i9-9900K processor, trying to eliminate processor as a bottleneck. And the results were terrible for AMD. And as I've said before, this isn't necessarily AMD's fault. This just may be more reason why X-Plane needs to get Vulkan implemented and get away from OpenGL. For whatever reason, the OpenGL overhead does not play nicely with AMD cards. So looking at the numbers, I'll put those up here now. I mean, you can see that all the cards scored about the same when you're considering brand to brand. The AMD cards were in the mid-30s for frame rate, and the NVIDIA cards were in around 60 frames per second. And to put it in perspective, that GTX 1650 you see there, it's about 58 frames per second. GTX 1650, that's a $150 graphics card. It is doubling almost the performance you get from a $500, a $600, and a $400 or so AMD card. And again, I'm not blaming AMD necessarily for this. In other games, these cards perform as expected. But it's, as I've been telling people all along, you gotta go with NVIDIA if you're running X-Plane right now. A year from now or so, whenever Vulkan is implemented, whenever that is, and it's probably not gonna be soon, it's probably gonna be a little longer than you're expecting. Then you're going to see the AMD cards, I think, perform on the same level as, or this level that they're expected to perform at. But that is going to be, I think, a little while. And so really you need to stick with NVIDIA. I know some of you are fans of AMD, but the bottom line is you're going to get half the frame rate, maybe even worse. If you use an AMD card, and that's just the state of affairs right now with X-Plane and with AMD, and you know, it's unfortunate, but hopefully when Vulkan's implemented at some point, that will be fixed. Hopefully that helps you understand or make a decision or whatever.